Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stats podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 298, Volkanovski versus Topuria. First things first, make sure you smash that like button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is a Stats and Stacks podcast. Smash that subscribe. Even though we've been struggling a little, we started off the gates hot with the first event of the year in Canada. Last two have been rough, to say the least. I mean, we had our first O of 6 last week. Sorry, 2 weeks ago. Last week we had both our dogs come through, but we had another lock lose. So it's been a little bit of a struggle, but at the end of the day, you patch it together. We're still positive on the year. So we're just looking to bounce back. There are a lot of low-level UFC fights, and we finally have a pay-per-view with a decent offering, people we know a little better, and we're looking to make a little bit more money off of these people. Some of these are some sketchy spots, I'll be honest. For a pay-per-view, the prelims are a little sketchy, but we're hoping to work our way through it, figure out how to finally just crush this week like we did the first week of the year. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we'll just jump straight into it. Not a lot of fights here, only 12 fights, and there is one that may be getting canceled, may not be. It's really sketchy. There's the controversy over it getting pulled from the like DraftKings lineup with the fluffy copy loft fight. Not too sure what's going on there, but at the end of the day, we'll just go ahead and pretend like it's still going on just in case. So give me 1 second, we'll pull this right up for you. So with the very first fight of the night, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with a dog. It's a little bit of a public dog because it is, women's MMA, but a dog nonetheless. We have Andrea Lee at plus 150 going up against Miranda Maverick at minus 180. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 is juiced to minus 330. Under 2.5 at plus 240. Let's start with Miranda Maverick because I've bet her a lot. And I don't think she's very good, to be honest with you. She has really good jujitsu. She's 26 years old. I love that she trains at Elevation. I love that she travels around for her camps. Her fight IQ is decently high, in all honesty. Her cardio seems to check out. So you're thinking, what's wrong with her? Problem is, she's a really, really good jujitsu practitioner, but she's not a good wrestler. She had me fooled. Initially, I thought she was an okay wrestler. We saw her just utilize her stand up against I can never say her name, Liana Jajua. But then we saw the Jillian Robertson fight. She was able to take Jill down. I thought maybe she's a decent wrestler, but she's not. She's not at all. Jillian's just not a great wrestler either. Macy Barber, she struggled a little bit. She ended up losing a split there, and I thought she won. I had money on Macy, and I thought Miranda won. And then the Blanchfield fight. I was all over Blanchfield. Blanchfield took her down like 10, 11 times. She beat the shit out of her. Sabina Mazzo, she was able to take down 4 times, but Sabina got up a few times, and that's concerning. Shayna Young, she took down a few times, but she wasn't able to submit Shayna. And then there was the Jasmine Jasdovicius fight where she could not take her down at all, was getting pieced up while on the ground and getting pieced up on the feet. And then even the Cachoeira fight, she struggled a little bit to get Priscilla down, and Priscilla's not the greatest wrestler. So her jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. She's a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. She's usually a bit of a wet blanket on top, but she just struggles to get it down there. And I realized she only has a single. She has like 3 different finishes to her single leg, but that's the only takedown I've ever seen her get. So if you can defend a single, you're in pretty good shape. And even if you get her on her back, she will play off her back because she's so confident in her jiu-jitsu, and I'm not a fan of people that play off their back. On the feet, yeah, she has a knockout over Liana Jujua in her UFC debut, but Jujua was not UFC caliber. It was a doctor stop, and she didn't go out there and knock her out. And her striking's robotic. It's not very good. Again, Jasmine Jasdovicius was giving it to her on the feet. She's very hittable. She does not like getting hit. It's just not great. Like, she's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. I don't know if this MMA thing is for her. On the other side, we have Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee's a little older. We have 26 going up against 35. Not generally something I want to support, but Andrea Lee stand up is actually pretty good. We saw her go toe to toe with Viviana Araujo, with Natalia Silva, with just a lot of good fighters. Macy Barber, again, all of those are top 10 in the division girls. And she's losing razor thin fights here. I thought she beat Macy Barber. Again, I had money on Macy Barber there. Me and Macy, I didn't realize how much I bet Macy Barber. But yeah, I had money on Macy, and I thought that Andrea won. So that was very close. Natalia Silva did whoop her ass a little bit. It was somewhat competitive in round 1 and 2. Roxanne Modafferi is what people are going to go back to, saying that she is bad takedown defense. Because Roxanne did take her down quite a bit. And career wise, she does have a 54% takedown defense. But if you look at that number, her last few fights, it's improving, man. She realized that she had bad wrestling and bad jujitsu, and she has been working on it, and you see it. Like, you see it a ton. I mean, Viviana Araujo took her down 3 times. I understand that. But Vivi's a really, really good wrestler, and she wasn't able to just take her down and hold her down for 3 rounds easily and tap her out like it used to happen. Like, she struggled with her down there. Um, whatchamacallit, Macy Barber was able to get her down twice, but she took down Macy Barber 5 times. Like, she's improved her wrestling. We saw her jujitsu against Antonina Shevchenko. I mean, I know that's not saying much, but it looked good down there. We saw her absolutely beat the shit out of Cynthia Calvillo, and that aged well. Cynthia Calvillo is a good fighter. Her schedule is good. She's fought a lot of top girls in this weight class. She struggles with blast doubles a little. I didn't see a lot of people shooting singles on her, so I know she's good with her upper body. I don't know how she's going to be with the singles of Miranda Maverick, but I'm willing to put plus 150 on it and find out. So give me the better striker against the girl that struggles to wrestle. So the pick is going to be Andrea Lee. The bet's going to be Andrea Lee at plus 150. Lock it up. Easy money. All right. Next fight of the night is a sketchy one. I don't really know what to do with it. We have Val Woodburn at plus 245 going up against Oben Elliott at minus 305. Over under at 2.5, over 2.5 at plus 150, under 2.5 at minus 195. Let's start with Val Woodburn. He's not great. He doesn't have a 2 inch reach advantage here, which was shocking to me. He's usually kind of shorter and stockier. And then I realized that this fight is going to be at 170 instead of the traditional 185. So he is dropping a weight class here. Fusion XL is a pretty decent camp. His striking's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's decent. He's a short, stocky guy. He seems to pack a punch. His wrestling, you didn't see a ton of it. We see a lot of cage control. You see a lot of this guy striking and then grappling. He throws a whole bunch of crazy wild hooks at you, and then he grabs you and pushes you up against a cage and kind of takes a little break and then goes back there and throws a ton of hooks at you trying to knock you out and then just grabs you and holds you against the cage. He's a very physically imposing guy. He likes to counter strike a lot when he is at distance. But at the end of the day, I don't know about his jujitsu. It seems to be a little questionable. He's just a sprawl and brawl fighter. His cardio seemed to check out at 185. He doesn't look to have the just body type of someone that can go a hard 15, but I didn't really see him slowing down a bunch. He's just a bunch. He's just very, very clinch heavy. He will swing hooks, clinch you up against a cage. Swing hooks, clinch you up against a cage every like 30 seconds, and he just alternates back and forth and back and forth. But if he runs into someone that's a decent wrestler, he might be in some trouble. I know he fought one of the best wrestlers in Bo Nickel, but he got chin checked in 30 seconds. So is he chinny? We don't know. His level of competition's not great. He wasn't even supposed to fight Bo Nickel. He filled in on a few days' notice. He was actually scheduled to fight on the Contender Series. No one would fight Bo Nickel. He said he'd step up to the plate. So he just skipped the Contender Series process and went out there as a sacrificial lamb. He did get sacrificed again, got KO'd in 30 seconds. But I mean, he got a contract out of it. But at the end of the day, clinch, hooks, a few counter strikes. That's all you see from this guy. Um, Again, if he runs into a good grappler, a good wrestler, he might be in some issue. He's kind of running into that with Oben. Oben Elliott's good. I think he's really good. He trains over with Jack Shore at that gym. He's only 26 years old, so he's at that age where he's going to get better and better. He's at Cage Warriors, which is losing a little luster as of late, but it's still okay. Dana White Contender Series, he beat Kayak Brito. I'm actually kind of high on Kayak Brito. I think that guy is really good. He hits decently hard. And Oben was able to strike with him. Oben is good striking. He was able to take him down 4 times. Oben is good wrestling. He has a few rear naked chokes on his record and trains with again Jack Shore, who's a BJJ black belt. His jiu-jitsu checks out. His cardio, it's really good. He can go a hard 15 minutes grappling the entire time. So you're thinking, he's minus 300. Why are we not locking this guy? Because he's chinny as fuck. That's the only issue. He's going to win until he isn't. When you look at his record, he has 2 career losses. They're both by knockout. In addition, there are a plethora of fights where he has a lot of wins, where he was doing the stanky leg all over the octagon. Even in his a contender series fight that he won a decision in, he looked great round 1, and then round 2 he got clipped, and they almost stopped the fight. Like this dude, if you hit him, you can go out. So he's one of these guys that could potentially. I am not kidding. His talent wise could be a top 15 guy. He could be a ranked guy. Like I'm really high on Oben Elliott. I think he's really good. But I think you have 15 minutes to touch him. And if you touch that chin, he's liable to go out. You have like a 50-50 chance of putting him out. So do I want to trust him at minus 300? Absolutely not. Not against Val, who throws nothing but heavies and is dropping a weight class. No, I don't want to do it. Do I want to trust Val to catch him? No, because Vale might be chinny. Vale might be a bad wrestler, and he might be out of there real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the under, eat the chalk. Under 2.5 is about minus 195. Let's just take that and call it a day. Oben is the better fighter. He's going to be the pick here, but I cannot trust his chin. He's so good, but his chin is a huge liability. So pick is Oben. Bet is going to be the under 2.5. Next fight of the night, we are looking at Josh Quinlan coming in on short notice up against Danny Left Hand to God Barlow. It's just the weirdest nickname in history. Over under at 1.5 for this matchup. Over 1.5 is minus 140. Under 1.5 at plus 110. Let's start with Left Hand to God. I don't think he's that good. A lot of guys are really, a lot of people are high on this dude. I don't think he's that great. He's 28 years old. He's a little later to the game here. Law school MMA, the face of Memphis, Tennessee's MMA scene after he knocked out Raheem Morris for the Battle of Tennessee. At the end of the day, he has power. He hits extremely hard. That left hand to God is because if he cracks you, you're probably going out. As you see, most of his wins are by KO, 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 decision win, KO, KO, decision win. So most of his wins are in fact by KO. His schedule, I mean, that's part of the problem. He's getting a bunch of KOs as he's fighting guys that are 0-2 and 1-2 and 2-6 and 1-0 and 5-5. Like these aren't great fighters. But he's gonna have an 8-inch reach advantage here. That's huge. His jujitsu's okay. He does a lot of like you see here, he's doing some combat jujitsu. I like to see that. Um, his cardio's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. He likes to counter, preferably. That's how he wants to strike. And his cardio seems to check out. It's just it's a little lower volume, so it's a little easier for it to check out there. The biggest issue I have with him is his takedown defense. I've seen a few fights where it looked a little sketchy. Some people get on his legs, and it doesn't seem too difficult to get him down. I I don't know, man. It seems sketchy. If he runs into a good wrestler, I think he's in a little bit of issue here. If he's up and he's standing, that's fine. He can knock anyone out at any time. But if you put this guy on his back, I don't know. It might be a little sketchy. And here comes Josh Quinlan, who is predominantly a striker. And he likes to knock people out. He has 6 career wins, and I think they are all by fin. Every single one is by knockout, except for 2 rear naked choke wins. So I'm sorry, every single one of his wins are a finish. He has a ton of power. He has good striking. He went on Contender Series as well. The biggest problem with Josh Quinlan is that he looked like an unstoppable force until he hit the UFC and USADA took his steroids away. He did get popped for the gear. And he hasn't looked the same since. He did knock out Jason Witt, which was nice. I mean, I could knock out Jason Witt. I don't really. I mean, again, I'm not being conceited or cocky. I respect every man out here. I can never do what they do, but Jason Witt might go down in history as a top 3 chiniest fighter ever in the UFC. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Then he fought Trey Waters and got pieced up, and he seemed to really struggle with the length of Trey Waters. And again, Barlow's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage here. It's even more significant than he went ahead the reach against Trey Waters. Trey Waters is also just bigger and taller and thicker. Trey Waters is a big boy. I have no idea how he makes this weight. But at the end of the day, I don't know, man. I like Quinlan. I understand the Barlow hype. I don't know. I did see Quinlan mix in wrestling a few times, and I do see that he has 2 submission wins. I think he's the better overall fighter. It's just him natural is not the same. If he was on the sauce, I'm taking Quinlan all day. In the UFC, USADA's gone. I don't know. Maybe he's back on the gear. For that reason, just because he's a little more diverse, I'll go ahead and I'll take Quinlan here as the pick. But I'm really looking at is the over. Over 1.5 at -140. Neither one of these guys have ever been knocked out. They both seem durable as could be. So why rush it? Why pick a side? Why, question yourself? Let's just go ahead and play with the money here and go -140, over 1.5. Great odds. And that's not 2.5. That's 1.5. So the pick is going to be Josh Quinlan because he has more routes to win. The bet's just going to be the over 1.5. I think he could grapple him a little bit or just stay alive. Next fight of the night. We probably had the sketchiest fight on the card. I have no idea why this is on a UFC pay. You know what? I do know why this is on a UFC pay-per-view for sheer entertainment value. We have Ming Yang Zhang at -130 going up against Bredson Ribeiro at +110. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 is +220. Under 1.5 at -300. And why is the under 1.5 juiced all the way to -300? Because of both these dudes. They're essentially the identical person. I could go ahead and just say the same thing for both people and move on to the next fight. But we'll start with Zhang. Zhang is 25 years old. His striking's okay. It's not great. It's okay. He he hits hard. I'll give him that. His wrestling's okay. We saw him use it a little bit in a few of his fights early on, but he's very hittable. Like he has some of the worst striking defense I've ever seen in my life. You would say he's chinny because he's been knocked out time and time again. He has 6 losses, and 5 of them are by finish, and most of them are by knockout, except for one, two. Oh man, he got choked out twice. So 3 of them are by knockout. He got choked out twice and he got decisioned once. So you would say he's easy to finish, but a lot of that is not that he's necessarily chinny. It's that he doesn't block punches. He lets you hit him. He will let you crack him with your hardest shot as long as he can hit you back with his hardest shot. So I guess you could say he's chinny, but it's really just that he literally blocks punches with his face like I've never seen at a rate I've never seen before. He's winning off this road to UFC. Again, he's just power and relies on knocking you out. At the end of the day, he also lost to oh god, where is it on here? Everyone's gonna talk about it. There's the guy that had the fake record, where he just faked a lot of his record on here. Oscar Mazarev. He came into the UFC and Alonzo Menafield like destroyed this guy and ended his career and found out that he was on the sauce and was lying about his record and everything. Yeah, that guy knocked out Zhang. And not only is it on his record, there's video evidence of it. So this is a fight that he actually had. So getting knocked out by who is statistically one of the worst people to ever fight in the UFC is not a good look making your MMA debut. Or UFC debut. So you're thinking, I mean, why is he the favorite? Because Bredson Ribeiro fights the exact same way. His jiu-jitsu is all right, but he's very submission over position. Outside of that, he cracks. He hits really, really hard. He prefers to counter. He's a little chinny himself. He has 5 career losses, only 1 by decision. The other 4 are by knockout and choked out twice. So, I mean, 2 by knockout, 2 by submission, 1 by decision, basically virtually the same as Zhang. Really, really powerful striker, okay striking, and refuses to block. He wants to block punches with his face. So, both these guys can crack. Both these guys let you punch them. But at the end of the day, Ribeiro does have like a 2 inch reach or 6 inch reach advantage. My apologies. He has a 6 inch reach advantage. And he has the better win out of the two. Zhang has fought absolute cans. Like he literally doesn't fight anyone with a winning record. Ribeiro at least won on Contender Series. And he beat Bruno Lopez, who I think is the best win of the two. So only because he has a reach advantage and the better win of the two, I'll give him the edge. Because he's the dog. So the pick is going to be Ribeiro. The bet's going to be Ribeiro. I would just say bet the under. It's too juiced. Take the shot at Ribeiro if you want. Otherwise, just enjoy the fight. It's on there because it's violence. That's literally the reason that fight is taking place, for violence on a pay-per-view. Right. Next fight of the night is more violence. It's going to be one of the largest lines I've seen in a while. We have Rinya Nakamura at minus 1350, so almost 14 to 1 odds. Up against Carlos Vera at plus 800. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 190. Under 1.5 at plus 145. We're going to have to start with Rinya Nakamura, considering he's almost a minus 1,400 favorite. What is this dude to warrant that high of a price tag? He's a future top 10 guy, top 5 guy. This guy is good. His nickname's the Hybrid, and that is totally justifiable. This dude was bred out of a fucking lab. His dad owns like a MMA gym, and he's been training in it literally since he could walk. He won the under 23 Olympics in wrestling. Was going to go to the Olympics for wrestling for Japan, and decided I'm going to start the MMA thing a little early. Not only has he been wrestling his whole life, he's been doing jujitsu his entire life. So he is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. He's an Olympic level wrestler. And the scariest part is he has power. He's a proficient striker. He doesn't throw a ton of volume, but when he does, he has a ton of knockouts on his record. He cracks. I mean, he's not just going out there and using his wrestling and subbing you. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 knockouts. Out of his 8 wins, half of his wins are by knockout. The Olympic wrestler has half of his wins by knockout. This guy is fucking frightening. We did see him fight Fernie Garcia in the UFC, and someone finally took him the distance, and his cardio checked out. So I don't know. I legitimately have no idea where this guy's weakness is. He loves to march forward. Maybe if you push him back, he might run into some issues, but I don't know, man. This guy literally has no weaknesses right now outside of experience. He's 28. He only has 8 career fights. He's essentially Japanese Bo Nickel. Like, this guy is ridiculous. He's so fucking good. On the other side, we have short notice Carlos Vera from The Ultimate Fighter. He's there for a paycheck. And he's there to say that he made it to the UFC because he can't just go back to the regional scene and try to make his way back. He's 36 years old. He is a striking coach over at Ryan Hall's gym. He kind of has like a capoeira style. His jujitsu's okay. He predominantly wants to strike, but he's taking this fight on short notice. He does slow down in his fights, and his wrestling's bad. And that's not really a quality you want to have when you're going against an Olympic wrestler, having bad takedown defense. But I mean, that's part of the capoeira style. They cross their feet a lot. If you cross your feet, it's the easiest way to get taken down. And that's the way he fights on the feet. So, I mean, can he have a striking advantage? Technically, yeah, I think he's the better striker. But he doesn't carry a ton of power. Rinya hits 10 times harder. He's the one that would get the knockout. If they go down to the ground, is his jiu-jitsu okay? Yeah, but Rinya's the jiu-jitsu black belt. He's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. So if Carlos doesn't have the power to knock him out and isn't credentialed enough to sub him, how does he win this fight? I have no fucking clue. Rinya hurting himself. I don't think Carlos beats Rinya. I think Rinya beats Rinya, and that's the only way Carlos pulls this off. Otherwise, this is going to be murder in the octagon. So the pick is going to be Rinya. The bet's going to be not Rinya at minus 1350. If anything, I'm leaning the sub. Again, Carlos Vera's takedown defense is terrible. So if he takes him down, I know that Fernie Garcia was able to survive like 3 different submissions attempts, and Rinya did talk about how that annoyed him. So maybe he tries to make an example out of Vera and get that sub. So the pick is going to be Rinya. The bet's going to be Rinya by sub, or you can take the under 1.5. That's the only way to play it. Under 1.5 is plus money. So actually, maybe just take that. That might be the better route. All right. Next fight of the night, we have Marcos Rogerio de Lima at -140 going up against Justin Tafa at +120. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 +160. Under 1.5 at -210. Let's start with Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He's 38 years old, which is not great, but that's at heavyweight. So heavyweight age, that's fine. That's like saying he's 33 in any other weight class. He has powerful leg kicks. That's the best part of this guy's game. He kicks hard like a mule, like will break legs with how hard he throws those calf kicks. He trains at ATT, so he's at a good camp, especially for heavyweights. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Now, don't get me wrong. He has like 6 submission losses on his record, so he's not the world's greatest black belt. But on top, at least he's proficient. He knows what's going on, and that's big for someone at heavyweight. He's better than most heavyweights on the ground. I'll tell you that. He carries a ton of power. The dude hits hard. I know that he predominantly fought at 205, decided he's done cutting weight, and it was just a blown up light heavyweight. Well, he's filled out the frame a little more, man. He hits hard. Like he looks like a legitimate heavyweight right now. He is a little chinny. I'll give him that. He doesn't get knocked out all the time. I know Derek Lewis knocked him out, but I have seen him rocked in a few fights, so you do have to be cognizant of that. And he can slow down in this fight. He'll utilize some wrestling in some of his fights, which again is huge because you don't see a lot of that at heavyweight. But it does gas him out. So if he doesn't get the finish from doing that, just keep an eye on him. He'll just mix it in though. He predominantly just wants to kick your legs off, or try to throw a crazy mean overhand right and put your lights out. Or in the case of Andrei Arlovski, both. Put your lights out and then choke you out with a club and sub. So at the end of the day, he's not a good fighter at all. But he has a lot of qualities that get you wins at heavyweight, utilizing leg kicks, utilizing wrestling, utilizing jujitsu. Most heavyweights are just power strikers. So he's a little different there, and he can use that to his advantage in some matchups. Um, Especially this one. He's going up against Justin Tafa. I don't like Justin Tafa. I don't think he's very good. I think he has pretty decent boxing. I'll give him that. But outside of his good striking, his jiu-jitsu is questionable. We don't know about it. He only has 10 career fights. And we've never seen him on the ground ever. He's only had one takedown attempted against him, and that was Harry Hunsucker. So Harry Hunsucker is also a light heavyweight who had never won in a fight in the UFC and never made it longer than 2 minutes. So yeah, it doesn't say much. In fact, not only Harry Hunsucker, he fought Austin Lane, who's not UFC caliber. He fought Parker Porter, who's not UFC caliber. He fought Jared Vandera, who's not UFC caliber, and Carlos Felipe, who's not UFC caliber. And Juan Adams, who's not UFC caliber. Jorgen De Castro, my apologies, also there. Not UFC caliber. All those guys have been cut from the promotion outside. I don't know if Parker Porter's been cut yet, but I know the rest of them have. So he has no wins or no fights on his record with anyone that's still in the UFC. So that's concerning. The other thing is, I've seen this dude rocked and no one's talking about it. He has a questionable chin. Jorgen De Castro knocked him out. Jorgen De Castro is not a power puncher, and he knocked him out in the first round. Carlos Felipe rocked him, and Carlos Felipe is known for having the softest, most pillow fistiest fists in MMA. Jared Vandera knocks out nobody, rocked him badly. Had Justin not doing the stanky leg, but up against the cage and having the cage hold him up. Jared Vandera almost knocked him out and then ultimately got the win. He might be chinny. And when you look at the rest of his record, Austin Lane, that fight lasted 1 minute, so we have no idea what could have happened there. Harry Hunsucker can't hit hard at heavyweight. Parker Porter can't hit hard at heavyweight. Jared Vandera can't hit hard. Carlos Felipe can't hit hard. Who has he fought that actually packs a punch? This is going to be the hardest power puncher he's ever faced, and he's been knocked out and chin checked multiple times. So I'm very concerned about his chin. Secondly, again, the wrestling, we have no idea what his ground game's like or if he's a good wrestler. We have no idea. Only one person has attempted to take down. It doesn't seem like he'd be great on the ground. He's a New Zealand striker. Everyone compares him to Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt was not good on the ground, and he trains with Mark Hunt. So I don't really know. Training with a K1 kickboxer, I don't think that screams great jujitsu. And I think we're gonna find out a lot about Justin Tafa. He can slow down in his fights. I've seen him go a hard 15. At least he can go 15. So can Marcos, though. They both look exhausted going 15, but they've both done it. But I just think DeLima could sub him. I think DeLima could potentially knock him out. No one's talking about that chin. Justin Tafa could also knock out DeLima. So what you want to do is probably just take the under. Don't play around with low level heavyweight, but I'm very hard headed and I'm going to do it. So the pick is going to be Rogerio de Lima. The bet's going to be Rogerio de Lima. I always trust the guy with more ways to win, and he has multiple. He can win a decision, he can win by KO, or he can win by sub. Tafa, not so much. Next fight of the night takes us to the prelim headliner. We have Amanda Lemos going up against Mackenzie Dern. Dern at plus 110, Amanda Lemos at minus 130, over under at 2.5, over 2.5 plus 100, under 2.5 minus 130. I'll be honest with you. I think Amanda Lemos should win this fight, but my gut is screaming Mackenzie Dern for absolutely no reason. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know when, but Mackenzie Dern's going to win this fight when she shouldn't. Amanda Lemos is 36 years old. I don't like that, but she hits extremely hard. She has a ton of power. She has good striking. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She's decent on the ground. I know Wei Lee was able to keep her on the ground for like 25 minutes, but she had her in some precarious situations initially. It's just after a while she faded because her cardio is not the greatest. I've seen her fade, and her takedown defense isn't the greatest. She's rocking a 55% takedown defense. So Wei Li Zhang took her down 6 times. We saw Michelle Waterson Gomez took her down. We saw Angela Hill took her down. Like, these aren't good wrestlers. She should not be getting taken down by these girls. She will have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is nice. Again, she should win this matchup. Why? Because Mackenzie Dern is a jiu-jitsu practitioner that's fighting MMA. She can't really strike. She can't really wrestle at all. So if this is a striking fight, we just saw it in Jessica Andrade. What is the major difference between Jessica Andrade and Amanda Lemos? They both hit extremely hard. They're both Brazilian. They both have jiu-jitsu black belts. And they both struggle with takedown defense. Like, there's no difference between the two. They're literally the exact same thing. And Jessica Andrade went out there and knocked out Mackenzie Dern. So you think Amanda Lemos should do the exact same thing. But I don't think she does, man. I think Dern's gonna win coming in on short notice. She is just aggressive. She's really, really mean. Again, world-class jiu-jitsu. If you go down to the ground with her, I don't care if you're a black belt yourself, you're susceptible to getting tapped out. Her striking's not good at all. She has no striking defense to ever be seen. Like, her chin is way up in the air, asking you to knock her out. And again, she has like a 10% takedown accuracy. Like, she cannot wrestle, but she finds ways, man. We saw her against Tisha Torres. She didn't get the takedown. She pushed her up against the cage and then just literally climbed her like a tree and got on her back, and then just never succumbed to like letting Tisha do anything. She just slapped in a body triangle standing. We've seen her pull guard before. We've seen her do Aminari rolls. Like, she will do anything to get down to the ground. I've even seen her dropped and then someone jumps on top of her, random Marcos. Like, I've seen her find ways to the ground. And once she gets to the ground, it's her world. She will reverse you. She will sub you. It will be game over. How does she get Lemos to the ground? I don't know. Again, Lemos, 55% takedown defense, but Dern can't wrestle. So I don't know how she's going to do it. She's extremely hittable. But she has good cardio. I'll give her that. And she's just mean and aggressive, and she will find a way. Once she gets it down to the ground, I think she's going to have her way. She might even finish her, to be honest with you. It makes no sense. I think she's just going to out aggression Lemos. Like, she's not going to out strike her. She's not going to even out jujitsu her. She's just going to be meaner and ultimately get, you know what, a decision. I think a decision at the end of the day. So the pick is going to be Dern. The bet's going to be Dern. I think Lemos should win this fight, but I trust your gut. The gut's been decent on some of these crazy plays as of late, and I'm going to trust it again and say another dog comes through in Dern. And most of the time in women's MMA, at least one dog comes through. Andrea Lee, we're already picking. Maybe it's just a back-to-back week. So pick is Dern, bet is Dern. Then that takes us to the main card. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. This is a Stats and Stacks podcast going strong for about 2 years now and just building as we go. We have fluffy Anthony Hernandez at minus 205 going up against Roman Kopylov at plus 170. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 160. Under 1.5 at plus 125. Let's start with my boy Fluffy. I love Fluffy Hernandez. Again, keep an eye out for this fight. It may or may not be happening. Some weird stuff is going on with DK, but Fluffy's the man. I love Fluffy. He was originally slated to take on Ikaram. What's Ikaram's last name? How do you say it? Ikaram Aliskov. Thank God that fell through. Because Fluffy is good, man. You know what? Fuck it. He would have beat Ikaram too. I like Fluffy. Fluffy is a great fighter. He is a dark horse. He is potentially a top five guy in the weight class that no one talks about. He has okay striking. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just okay. His wrestling's good. His wrestling's very good. And he may not get the initial takedown, but he doesn't fucking stop. He keeps shooting and shooting and shooting until he gets you down, and he weaponizes cardio. That's the best part of his game. He is great, great, great cardio. He will not stop. He keeps breaking people. You look at his last few wins, round three, decision. Round two, like he drowns you. His jujitsu's good. We see him tap out the black belt hunter. I mean, mostly off of exhaustion, but he still got the job done. We saw him ground and pound the hell out of Edmund Shabazian. We saw him arm triangle Marc Andre Barrio. Like his jujitsu is really good. So he's a good wrestler with great godly cardio, and good jujitsu. Like what else could, and he can hold his own on the feet. What else, how is this guy not like a top three guy? Um, his durability. And mainly to the body. You can chin check him, but if you knee or kick his ribs, he seems to have some sort of issue with his body. So if you tap his body, he will crumble. Marcus Perez clubbed and subbed him, and that did not age well. And Kevin Holland, who's now fighting at welterweight, threw some knees to the body and put him out in 40 seconds. So Fluffy's the man. I love Fluffy, but he's a little susceptible to getting KO'd. So yeah, he's my guy. He's my guy, but he's a little chinny. On the other side, we have literally the complete opposite of Fluffy. We have Roman, who's a really, really good striker. He has 92% takedown defense. Now he knows how bad his jiu-jitsu is. His jiu-jitsu is terrible. His cardio's not good. So what did he do? He realized he's Russian, so he started training wrestling with Dagestanis. He took 3 years off after his submission loss to Carl Robertson, came back after training with Dagestani wrestlers, and now has 92% takedown defense. Good for him. He took 3 years off and adjusted his issue. He's never going to be great on the ground, and he knows that. But if he's never on the ground, it doesn't fucking matter. His striking's great. This dude is a Russian striker. Like, he's really, really good on the feet. And here's my biggest concern for my boy. He throws a ton of body work and a ton of devastating head kicks and body kicks. I just said Fluffy's a little chinny and is real susceptible to the body. Roman targets the body like no other middleweight. So this is a terrible style matchup for Fluffy. But at the same time, Roman has bad cardio and bad jujitsu. It's a terrible style matchup for Roman. So I don't know what the fuck to do. What's going to happen first? Is Roman going to guess and Fluffy gets him to the ground, or both? Or is Roman going to catch Fluffy with a shot and put him away? Which one's going to happen first? At the end of the day, I don't think this thing is going the distance. Under 1.5 is plus 125. I like the under 2.5 personally, and I think I'm going to get great odds on that alt line. And that's the way I'm going to take it. One of these guys are getting knocked out or drowned. So the pick is going to be Fluffy. I will always favor the grappler. The bet's going to be the under 2.5. You know what? Forget the under 2.5. Let's rock with our boy Fluffy. Let's get it. All right. Next fight of the night. We got to take another dog shot here. We have Triple C Henry Cejudo at plus 180 going up against Merab Dvalishvili at minus 220. Over 2.5 is minus 315. Under 2.5 at plus 230. Let's start with Triple C. Olympic level wrestler. The dude has really, and of course, pictures with his gold medals. Youngest gold medalist in USA Olympic history. I think he was 18 when he won his gold medal. Phenomenal wrestling, really, really, really good wrestling. And his striking's catching up. He has a good little weird karate style striking. It's a little lower volume, but at the end of the day, he's a good striker on the feet. He's very hard to hit. He will utilize that wrestling over and over and over again. His jiu-jitsu checks out. He has a really good strength of schedule, considering he was a champion both at flyweight and bantamweight. He has 83% takedown defense. Only 2 men have ever taken him down. Everything's good about this guy. He has nothing bad to say about Henry Cejudo. The only bad thing is he's 37 years old And he's small. He's not really a bantamweight. He's just 37, so he will kill himself making 125 because he's too old. Your body breaks down. It doesn't lose as much weight as you used to. He had to go up to 135 because he's so old. But here's where things get sketchy, and the reason why I'm gonna go ahead and pick him. Merab Dvalishvili is on a tear. He's only 33 years old. He has a lot of self-belief right now. His striking's not great. I'd actually give the advantage in the striking to Henry. Wrestling advantage is going to be Henry, but Merab shoots a ton more. Merab weaponized wrestling like we've never seen before. He doesn't shoot with the intention of taking you down. He shoots with the intention of stifling your offense. You cannot throw punches if you're stuffing a takedown 24/7, and he does not stop shooting. You're going to hear the stat. He shot 49 takedowns against Peter Yan last fight. 49 takedowns. Jose Aldo, the fight before that, Merab had 0 takedowns. He took him down 0 times, but Aldo could not throw any punches because Merab had him up against the cage on his legs the entire fucking fight. Like you cannot strike with Merab because he doesn't allow you to, because he's just on your legs or on a body lock non-stop. You talked about cardio. This dude, I talked about Fluffy having the best cardio. Fluffy is kind of like middleweight Merab, but Merab's the originator. He has the best cardio we've ever seen in MMA history. Like that's as far as I'm gonna say. Like no one in MMA history has had better cardio than Merab Dvalishvili. Now again, if he does take you down, he has terrible top control. His jiu-jitsu is not great. We've seen him sub before by Ricky Simone. But again, he trains with Aljo a ton, so I know he's fine on the ground. It's just not a strong suit. Um, he's a little chinny. I've seen him chin checked by Marlon Moraes. I've seen him chin checked by Cody Stamen chin checked him a little bit. Cody Stamen can't hit hard at all. I forgot if it was Casey Kenny. One other person did chin check him. He's never, it's not like he's going out there and getting knocked out. But I have seen him rocked on multiple occasions. So be weary of that. Henry could catch him. But Henry's not really a power puncher, especially at 135. Merab himself has 78% takedown defense. So one thing Henry could do to stifle all of Merab's wrestling, take Merab down. There is no reason Henry cannot take down Merab. And Merab's not on his back often. It's not where he likes to be. And Henry has pretty decent top control. If Merab wants to wrestle you the whole fucking time, you are the Olympic wrestler. Take his ass down and then see what happens. That's a route for Henry to win. And the reason I think Henry can do that, because I talked about how Henry is a true flyweight. So is Merab. Merab's not a 135 pounder. Part of the reason his cardio is so good is because he hardly has to cut weight. This dude is a 125 pounder. He can make 125. Why he doesn't, I don't really know. I mean, he's doing great at 135, so I understand it. But Merab is like probably the smallest bantamweight on the roster. So Henry, who's a true flyweight, is finally going to fight someone at 135 his size. I love that. Again, Henry's old. He's 37. But at the end of the day, he's the better striker. He's the better wrestler. His cardio's not what Merab's is, but this is a 15-minute fight. Merab has to break him quicker. And I think Henry's cardio is good enough to where he's not going to break in that 15 minutes. All he has to do is win 10 rounds or 10 minutes. Merab is not a power striker. He's not really a finisher. So he's a minute winner. And if Henry's on top of him the entire time or stifling his takedowns and getting some offense in, I don't understand how Henry's this big of a dog. So the pick is going to be Henry. The bet's going to be old man Henry. Next fight of the night is one I'm not happy about. We have Jeff Neal at plus 185 going up against Ian Machado Gary at minus 225. Over under set at 2.5, and it's a straight pick 'em. The reason I'm not happy at all is because I cannot stand Ian Machado Gary, but I think he wins this fight. He has really good striking. He has a sneaky good ground game. His wrestling's not great. It's okay, but it's not going to be a problem in this matchup because Jeff Neal doesn't wrestle. He throws a ton of volume. He has good cardio. He doesn't care if he's going forward or you're backing him up. He's very good fighting off his back foot. He does have a little bit of tall man defense, so he can get chin checked. He might be a little chinny. We've heard about Leon Edwards knocking him out in camp. We've heard about Luke knocking him out in camp. We've seen him get dropped and face plant against Kenan Song in the UFC. We've seen him get rocked by Jordan Wright in the UFC, or not Jordan Wright, Jordan Williams in the UFC. People say he's chinny, and we've physically seen it. We not only heard the stories, we've seen it in the octagon. You can crack this guy. He will go out eventually, but he's 13-0 and he's only 26, so that chin's not going away yet. And again, he has that tall karate style striking, and that's something we saw Jeff Neal just absolutely break and struggle with against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm not comparing Ian Gary to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but he probably hits a little harder. And he's just really good fighting going backwards. Jeff loves to go forward. But he doesn't have a lot of head movement, and you can piece him up while he's coming in, going for the kill shot. He has good striking. Jeff has a ton of power. He throws a ton of volume. He's just a little hittable and a sitting target for someone like Ian Gary to just have target practice with. He has 87% takedown defense, so he will be able to keep this on the feet. Gary shouldn't be able to take him down. But he's pretty durable. But again, you can hit him. He's very hittable, and it's something that where you have just a traditional power boxer going up against just a pure striker and Ian Gary that has the reach advantage, has the length. It just screams Ian Gary. And we've seen this matchup like 2 years ago. And we also saw Jeff Neal struggle against Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think that Gary's a better striker than Santiago. Just styles make fights. I would love nothing more than Jeff Neal to knock his head off. If he touches Ian Gary's chin, he's probably going out. We had the t-shirts Ian Gary made making fun of Jeff Neal's mugshot. Jeff wants to hurt this guy. Like, he's not going to quit in there. He wants to be the first one to put. He doesn't want to beat Ian Gary. He wants to knock him out. And I will have money on Jeff Neal by KO, but I think that's the only way he wins this fight. I think Ian Gary is going to decision this dude and kind of make it look easy. So the pick is going to be Gary. The bet's going to be Gary. Again, you heard me right. I have money on Jeff Neal by KO out of like trying to will something into existence. I cannot recommend you do that. If anything, it's going to be Gary, and Jeff is pretty durable. I think it's going to be Gary by decision. That's the better actual bet. Then that takes us to the main event of the evening. Speaking of things you want to will to existence, another person I just want to see get knocked out, and Paulo Costa plus 185, going up against Robert the Reaper Whitaker at minus 225. Over 2.5 minus 150, under 2.5 at plus 120. Let's start with Robert Whitaker because he's the man. He has 7 career losses. And when you really look at them, you want to talk about a good strength of schedule. He lost before he got into the UFC, he got triangled. Shit happens. He lost to Wonderboy Thompson, who has fought for a title. He lost to Israel Adesanya, who is a former champion, lost to Israel Adesanya again, who is a former champion, and he lost to Dricus du Plessis, who is the current champion. Before that, actually, he lost to Court McGee back at welterweight. I guess Steven was welterweight too in the UFC. So he has 2 losses at welterweight, and all his middleweight losses are to champions. So yeah, Robert's pretty good at middleweight, I'd say. He's also the Max Holloway of middleweight. Marvin Vettori's a top 5 guy. He beat him. Kevin Gastelum's a top 10 guy. He beat him. Jared Cannonier's a top 3 guy. He beat him. Darren Till, at that point, was a top 10 guy. He beat him. Yoel Romero was a title fight. He beat him. Ronaldo Souza, at that point, was a top 5 guy. He beat him. Derek Brunson, he beat him. Like, he beat everyone they put in front of him. The whole top 5 of the weight class he's already fought. The only one he hasn't fought is Sean Strickland. The rest of the top 5 he's already fought and beat. Like, they're running out of things to do with Robert Whitaker because only champions have beaten him at middleweight. He has good striking. He has okay jiu-jitsu. He has really good wrestling. He's a great schedule. Again, he's a little smaller. He keeps his hands very low. He's not a great fan of when you pressure him, mainly because he's a little chinny. My guy Rob is a complete fighter. He has great cardio as well. Again, he has a schedule, the striking, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, just not the chin. That's scary because he's going against Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa sucks, actually. He's He has good striking. I'll give him that. He throws a ton of volume for someone that large. I'll give him that as well. He slows down in his fights, but he never quits. You would say he's a gasser, but it's not like he stops throwing and quits on himself. He will continue to throw even at 2% power or just 2% speed. He will keep throwing. His jujitsu, he's a black belt on paper, but we haven't really seen a ton of it. He has 80% takedown defense. That's big because Robert's someone that likes to mix it up. He likes to strike, jab, jab, mixing a takedown, and then let you up, and blitz in on you, and then mixing a takedown. 80% takedown defense for Paulo Costa, so that's a good number. He might be a little chinny too. Just like we talked about Justin Tafa in the past, we saw Luke Rockhold rock him in his last fight, and that's not a good look. Israel Adesanya knocked him out. Marvin Vettori rocked him. Marvin Vettori's not a power puncher. So Paulo Costa might be chinny, and no one's talking about it. Other thing that people are talking about is his last knockout win. Luke Rockhold is the same thing as Robert Whittaker. He's good everywhere, but he has a bad chin. Luke Rockhold's chin held up. Let's see. The last time Paulo actually, Yoel Romero dropped Paulo Costa badly, but he was able to recover. But at the end of the day, the last time he got a knockout was against Uriah Hall in 2018. He doesn't fight frequently. We will say that, but yeah, he's not knocking out great level of competition. Uriah Hall in 2018, Johnny Hendricks, who was a blown up welterweight at that point, and then two guys that got caught from the UFC for being frauds. So yeah, he has a few knockouts in the UFC, but against two guys without wins, Uriah Hall, which isn't, I guess, his best knockout win, and then Johnny Hendricks, who was fighting up a weight class when he was like 40 years old and shot the bit. So I don't know. We don't even know if this fight's going to happen. Paulo Costa pulls out of every single fight he's ever been announced in. Watch weigh-ins. We don't even know what weight this is going to take place at. We had the whole thing with Marvin Vettori where he said, I'm not fighting unless it's at 205, like 2 days before. So I don't know. Paulo's just a weird guy. But you got to go with Robert. He's the talent. He has more ways to win. And he's talking a lot about how he's really thirsty for a finish. He hasn't himself had a finish in a while, and he keeps saying he has a way to crack this guy. He keeps saying he's going to knock out Paulo Costa. He didn't say he's going to sub up. He didn't say he's going to decision him. He is manifesting a knockout. And if he's going to go for it and he sees something, I trust him. So I might have a little sprinkle on Robert by KO, contingent on what that balance is, but whatever. I'll trust his chin for now. The pick is going to be Robert. The bet's going to be Robert, but I don't feel good about it. He is chinny. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. We have Alexander Volkanovski at minus 125. That's right. Alexander the Great at minus 125. Going up against Ilya Topuria at plus 105. Over under at 3.5. Over 3.5 is minus 130. Under 3.5 at plus 100. Let's start with Ilya Topuria. He is 14-0. And he's another one of these complete fighters, man. He's 27, so he's in his prime. He's undefeated. He has good striking. He has power. He has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's really good wrestling. His cardio's wishy-washy. We've seen it good. We've seen it bad. He has someone that has a tendency to take rounds off. We saw it in the Josh Emmett fight. He just took a whole round off because he was up on the scorecards by so much. He has 92% takedown defense. He has everything. To be honest with you, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. His biggest weakness is his strength of schedule and his cardio. And neither one are bad. Josh Emmett's a good fighter. Bryce Mitchell's an okay fighter. Jai Herbert, not so much. Ryan Hall is one-dimensional. Damon Jackson, not so much. Yusuf Zalal fights at 135. So you see where the sketchiness starts to happen a little bit with the schedule, but he's not ducking anyone. He wanted to fight Charles Jourdain. He signed to fight Mazar Evloev. He signed to fight Edson Barboza. Like, he's not ducking anyone. Those fights just didn't come into fruition. And the guys they gave him when he did take a step up, he finished Bryce Mitchell, and he should have finished Josh Emmett. He beat the hell out of Josh Emmett, and that was one of the biggest beatdowns in UFC history. On the other side, we have one of the best fighters in UFC history, in Alexander Volkanovski. He also has no weaknesses, so to speak. He has a 2.5-inch reach advantage here. That's the thing. Everyone talks about he's the small guy. He's very short, but his arms are long as shit, and that's the best thing you could have. If you're shorter, it's a lot harder to take you down. But if your arms are long as hell, you're a better striker because you have the reach advantage. He has the luxury of having both. Hard to take down with that low center of gravity, but freakishly long arms to where he still has a reach advantage if you hit the strike with him. So again, he's 35. That's not good. But 2.5 inch reach advantage, great striking, good wrestling. He will utilize his own offensive wrestling. Good jujitsu. He doesn't sub a lot of people, but he's shown a lot of good jiu-jitsu defense. He has really good cardio. That's the best part of his game, weaponized cardio. Really good schedule. Unlike Ilya, he's fought the best of the best at the weight class. Um, a ton of volume, 78% takedown defense. Everything's great here. Chinny to an extent. Now hear me out. There's a lot of asterisks next to it. He's had 3 losses. 2 of them are by knockout. Now, the first one was at 170, and he fights at 145. He was fighting 2 weight classes up, so let's give him a little bit of slack fighting 2 weight classes up early in his career. And then his last knockout loss to Islam in his last fight, he took the fight on a week's notice, up a weight class, fighting the #1 ranked guy in the world. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on there. Like, give him a little bit of slack there. But I have seen him chin checked a few times. And for as long as I've been talking about Volk in the UFC, I always bring it up. I mean, Max Holloway is not a power puncher. Granted, he kicked him, but he did rock him badly in that second fight. And a lot of people thought Max won because of that knockdown. He got knocked down by Max Holloway, who does not knock anyone out. He got knocked down. Brian Ortega was more of a catched kick. So I wouldn't say it was a knockdown per se, but still cracked off his feet. Jose Aldo, I don't think he cracked him. It was Chad Mendes cracked him badly. Like, he was doing the stanky leg against Chad Mendes, who's an American wrestler. So I've just named like 5 instances where this dude has gone out or done the stanky leg or been taken off his feet. You can crack him. And Topuria hits very hard. And 78% takedown defense, I'm looking at it here. He's not fighting a lot of wrestlers. Chad Mendes took him down multiple times. Darren Elkins wasn't able to, but he's not the greatest wrestler. So let's go from Elkins up. We have Chad Mendes taking down multiple. Jose Aldo doesn't wrestle. Max Holloway doesn't wrestle, and that's 3 of them. Brian Ortega is a terrible wrestler and was able to get him down twice. Chan Sung Jung is an okay wrestler, but that's not really his forte, and he was like 39 when they fought. And Nair can't wrestle at all. Islam was able to take him down multiple times. That was up a weight class. So there's like weird things going on with Volk. I understand why the line is so close. I understand that Ilya could potentially KO him or out grapple him. But Volk at -125, he's still the GOAT, and Ilya still has not fought this level of competition. We just saw it with Joe Pyfer last week. Sometimes it just takes a little bit to adjust to the top echelon of the sport. And I think Volk might give him a vet lesson here. So the pick is going to be Volk. The bet's going to be Volk at -125. That's a no-brainer. Place the bet without even looking at it. And that's UFC 298. Main card's great. Prelims, a little sketchy. But as long as you win money, every card is a good card. Let's get it.